Boss Ross.
That intro slaps. I haven't heard it in a while.
Pretty cool.
Baseline.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? It's a little game showy. Feels game showy. Really game showy.
Oh, the intro.
Like I'm about to
Like a camera swooping in over a studio audience.
I might be running down from the crowd because I just got picked. Who knows?
Yeah. Kevin Logan, come on down. Kevin, what do you like to do in your spare time? Crypto.
I was just listening to
buy shoes.
I was just listening to a Disc Knee spaces, and then things started going up, so I sold, and now I'm here. So good times. Happy Monday.
Yeah, man.
Happy Monday.
Dude, it's good to be here. It's great to have Ross on here. If
Ross,
you don't know, as you said, Bradley, we brought the big guns today. Yes, we did. There's a lot of digital recruiters that know who Ross is.
You noticed.
Yeah. And he did a few push-ups. But Ross it's not Christina that was with me from the beginning. It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't Keely. It was Ross. And you've been here since day one. Digital recruiter. Again, a lot of behind the scenes, right? Content coach every Thursday. You're running an epic workshop call. You're doing a lot of the review on posts for clients. We worked together on writing posts for clients and done some ghostwriting. We've kind of seen it all. We've helped, done some campaign building and some outreach. That's what people don't know. Is like you also know some of the automation stuff too in the strategy. So it's been we've had
damn near a recruiter.
It's almost like we've turned Ross into a little bit of a recruiter.
Sometimes when I feel like,
let's keep it real.
When I'm feeling like I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing, which is rare. I like what I do, but I'm like, I could just be a recruiter. I feel like I know how to do it now.
Yeah,
I've been writing about it for almost 3 years.
Get in
has
line.
It been more than 3 years?
Yeah, 3.
No, 2.5 years.
Yeah, about 2.5, 3 years. What's so we're gonna talk content ideas, right? How to come up with content ideas as a recruiter. We're going to talk about kind of your intro into copywriting because you have an interesting story and background. And I think there's a couple, I always hear, what do I write about? And then we always hear is content really that important? Do I really need to be doing it? And I think also people think you can just copy and paste some stuff or use ChatGPT and hashtags and your content problems will go away, or they consider that content. So we're going to kind of knock each one of those out today. If that sounds good to y'all.
Yeah, let's change some beliefs about content.
Cool. Well, let's start with this. How did you get into doing what you do now?
Yeah, kind of like what I've heard you say on the Digital Recruiter podcast before. Like I did not set out to do this in any way, shape, or form. I kind of fell into it. Like many people do with recruiting. I did not ever think I want to write LinkedIn content when I grow up. That was never something that I thought was going to be a thing. But about 5 years ago, I was in the service industry, making coffee, making cocktails, waiting tables. And I wanted to become a writer. So I wrote a series of novels and spent a lot of time at the keyboard, a lot of time writing, wrote some books that, I don't know if they were very good. They're interesting. And I needed to figure out how to sell these books when I realized that everybody in my family and close circle of friends had already bought my 99-cent Kindle book. I was like, okay, how do I get more people to write this? So I started to read about copywriting online, bought a copywriting course, and did that for a few months, learned the principles of copywriting. And then I was using that to try to sell my fiction books. But then I had somebody offer me $100 to write an email. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And I just went down the B2B side after that, just completely fell down the B2B rabbit hole. And someday I might go back to publishing novels again and using my copywriting skills to do that. But it's really interesting talking to business owners and figuring out what makes them tick and why their businesses do interesting pieces of writing that actually help make people money. I find that really fascinating. So that's kind of the circuitous path over the last 5 years that led me to LinkedIn content. And LinkedIn specifically, I met Clark when we were working at a LinkedIn lead generation agency together, and we did mostly focused on the messaging. But I started to see more and more that LinkedIn content was a really valuable way to stand out and to give yourself more opportunities, more at bats with prospects, and help yourself stand out in an even different way than just sending a good message.
We'll talk about that evolution. And for those that don't know, I know Ross's long-term goal is to probably have some sort of coffee-related offer. I asked Ross one question one time about coffee, and I got a 5-page paragraph response about all things coffee-related. So that's going to be the bestseller book down the road. I know it's going to be something coffee-related for you. But talk about the evolution, because we worked on campaigns and outreach and messaging. And as it relates to recruiting, why do you think the content piece has revealed itself to be so important for recruiters and getting the most out of LinkedIn?
Yeah. I think in one word, timing. It comes down to timing. When you're sending outreach messages, you are rolling the dice that the person that you're reaching out to is going to need you right now. You can, do some techniques with how you build your list. Like, okay, I'm going to go look at open jobs. Then I'm going to message those people being like, oh, I noticed you have this open job. But for the most part, when you're doing outreach, it's just a matter of luck whether or not the people you're reaching out to need you at the time that you're reaching out to them. Even if they're a perfect fit for you, they just might not be hiring for 6 months or 18 months. And so what do you do to stay in front of that person? A lot of people just want to send a message every week or send a message every month, and that gets old really fast. It's hard to not annoy people when you're showing up in their inbox over and over and over again without bringing anything really valuable to them. And
can I just highlight that real quick?
Yeah.
I've actually never heard that articulated that way, and I think that's a crazy good reframe. Dang, I've never heard it said like that. That as opposed to doing email, that's why we do that makes so much sense to me. But to the normal person who is writing the next email campaign after the week they just did it before, and then what you just said in terms of content being that campaign where you're not force feeding somebody. Sorry, I've never heard it said that way. That was
nice.
Yeah. It's to your point. I mean, and I think some of this is the self-awareness that I think we try to teach recruiters is like, be aware of how you are being perceived. It has a lot to do with how your competition is perceived, right? And the reputation that they've built, either with your prospects, your clients, with their prospects and clients, right? So there's some hiring managers love working with recruiters. A lot of them look at recruiters like dealing with gnats, right? So like you have to just know where you fit in, and I think you have to know where you stand to be able to know how to stand out. And I think that's. Email campaigns aren't hard to set up. I mean, good ones are hard. Good email campaigns are hard to do, but just being able to, spray and pray and mass blast people isn't hard to do nowadays. But a lot of people are trying that, so it's not really effective. So you're right. Like just that timing, and what Keely and I talk about in the sales calls on Tuesdays is like being pleasantly persistent. Well, one of the easiest ways to do that is through content. Because you're not actually using some of those, like I would call them like goodwill tokens on like an important email or a call. Like you only get so many of those before, as you said, Ross, like you're being annoying, right? And a lot of that comes like how much intel do you actually know about them to even have a good follow-up email or text? Because maybe you don't know enough about them besides it's like, hey, what's up, right? It's kind of like the equivalent of sending a you up text. Like,
well, sorry but to that point, and I do I don't want to take, but like I'm just like now you really have me thinking about this. Like for the people that are writing their 80th email, trying to get forget know and trust, just trying to get like. Think about the 78 pieces of content you could have wrote on LinkedIn, and half of those connect with the people versus you writing it's like, it just feels like that. I've just, again, never heard it expressed that way. That feels so insane to me now in that context that we would continue another email campaign that people open 8 times more that don't reply. And we wouldn't think to write content. We wouldn't try to connect with people in some other medium.
Right. And you get that data. I mean, do you think, Ross, that it's because is it almost because it's not really taught, or it's almost like a foreign language in terms of you can create the momentum with content that's kind of just out there? But it's like, wait, who actually cares for me to follow up with them? Like, is it kind of just not knowing what to look for after they post? Is it more probably what to post, but even also like what to look for, right? If you send out an email and you get one back, it's like pretty obvious. That's the focus. But if you make a post, it's like, well, what next?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is that with email, or if you're just sending in-mails or sending connection requests and then sending a message, it's all very clear, the path. It's very contained. It's like, I'm going to send a message to this person. If they respond, I will try to book them into a call or whatever. With content, it's a little less clear. It's more like putting an ad in a newspaper back in the day, where you're hoping the right people see it and then the right people do the right thing based on it. And so you have to be a little more open-minded about what you expect. And you also have to be a little more creative with how you're going to follow up on that. Fortunately, unlike placing ads in newspapers and magazines, with LinkedIn, you do get to see to a large degree who's paying attention to your posts when you post them. People make comments on them. You can tell what your market is thinking based on that. And just to kind of go back to the like staying in front of people without being annoying, Kevin kind of touched on this. You might be sending 8 email messages. Well, okay, so everybody knows that you need to have a certain number of touch points. I've seen 8 touch points. I've seen 12 touch points. I've seen 21 touch points before somebody's willing to talk to you. If you try to make all of those touch points in the inbox, or making a cold call and getting in their voicemails, that does or can get annoying really fast. And plus, you don't have the opportunity to say everything that matters in those communications. You have a matter of seconds before people start to tune you out. If you don't say the right thing, they're ignoring you. With content, you have a lot more opportunities to tell more of your story. You can talk about the people that you've helped. You can talk about the things that you've learned. You can talk about your opinions on current issues that matter to your market. You can talk about all these different things and really give people a much fuller idea of what it's like to work with you over time, without the pressure of showing up in their inbox and almost feeling like pestering them. Like Clark, you said that hiring managers can sometimes view recruiters as gnats. You don't want to be that. You want to be attractive to your clients, not pester them into submission.
You're curious, as somebody that's seeing a lot of these transitions with people, because of how many recruiters you work with that have that are transitioning that thought process. Where have you seen that transition happen, or that transformation happen, from a recruiter that is doing that traditional business development, only email, only messaging on LinkedIn, and then they hear, what are the things you're saying to them where it's like, oh, content makes sense? What are those transition periods from working with those people?
Yeah, I think one of the first initial aha moments is getting people to understand that element of timing. The thing that made it matter for me, and I actually heard this from a recruiter that Clark and I worked with years ago at the agency, was that if imagine that you're hiring, all the hiring managers you reach out to are a deck of cards. Maybe only the face cards would ever work with you. And then only the queens would work with you right now. Or maybe only the queen of diamonds would work with you right now. So the fact, like the ability to reach out to the right person at the right time, and then have that person be ready to talk to you at the right time, that's just a very small chance. And so it's not saying that it's not worth it to the outreach. You want to build your network, but if the only thing you're doing, that's putting a lot of pressure on luck, essentially. And content just spreads that out a lot more, where you're not only showing what you're good at and what you do to a wider group of people instead of just one person at a time, but you are taking away that timing element where you're not putting all this pressure on, I want you to work with me right now. You're just showing people what you do and then staying in front of them so they remember who you are until they're ready to work with you 6 months from now, 12 months from now. And so it just takes a ton of the pressure and a ton of the luck off of that. And so getting people to understand that's kind of the first thing. And then the transition to, I don't just have to ask people to work with me over and over again. I get to be a much more confident expert, step back, say what I'm about, say who I help, and share stories. And then people come to you. And when people start to notice, I made 6 posts in the last month, and the hiring manager sent me a message. That's a really powerful feeling where you think like, oh, I don't have to chase down every single person who ever works with me like a wolf on the plains. I get to actually just kind of like set my system up, and people will come to me. And it's not less work, but it's a lot less pressure on each piece of communication to make something happen.
Yeah.
Dude, that word pressure is it right there. It alleviates and relieves so much pressure of what I think the traditional sales mindset is, especially for recruiters. But like, it's got to be this way. I got to do that. I got to be so perfect versus like, well, everyone's different. All your hiring managers are different. All your clients are different. So let your content strategy show that and be like, hey, this is the buffet of content versus like we only offer one thing on the menu. And now there are restaurants where it's good to have that, but when you're thinking about content, you almost want to have that and kind of then you're seeing what kind of content or what piece in the buffet people are gravitating towards, right? Well, no one's touching the carrots, but everyone's going after the chocolate mousse. Like, all right, well, maybe I should cover that more or have it a little bit more of that, right? Like it's just like you get some of those tells for your market, alleviates pressure because you're looking for a different thing that's going to lead you. It typically might add a couple steps to a much better process, but you're able to eliminate another process that doesn't work as well.
It's there's a funny parallel with investing where we say time in the market versus timing the market. And we know this with charts, right? Like if anybody who looks at charts, you don't want to buy in on that chart that's going, up sky high. You want to buy that chart that's kind of sitting on the floor, that's just kind of trailing along, right? Because
I wish I listened to that a month ago, but go ahead.
All good. We'll get there. But time in the market, right? If you got in on those lows, when people start noticing and paying attention, well, then you're there. Versus always trying to time and be there at the moment. And to Ross's point, how many times are you going to get that queen of diamonds, right place, right time, right person? Always. No. But the likelihood of you creating content where they're like, oh, touch point. Oh, touch point. Oh, touch point. Oh, touch point. And then they have the problem. Well, luckily you were in all the way down here when things were boring. Now that volatility is back in their life and they're having problems again, guess who they're going to go to? And that's in how you phrase it. Time in the market will always beat timing the market for content, for investments, or for most of anything. And that's a consistency.
It's really, that's really well put. Really well put. And then obviously your research and the quality of those, like the ones that actually go up, right? Once you have time in the market, and then it's like, all right, well, how do you go about picking the probability of winners, right? You told this to me, Kevin. These companies aren't looking to invest in 10 winners. There's 10 companies, and if one is the winner that 100X's, it makes up for the other 9. It's the same thing with content. 10 good posts, but that one could be it. That balloons and goes off, and maybe it goes viral, or maybe it's the one that gets you 3 to 5 leads, right? Even if it only gets 20, 30 likes, it's the one that like really resonates with the market. That's the same type of approach.
It's that like gamble mentality. Like this next one, it's probably not going to be the one that like sets you free. That like all my problems are going to go away. But I feel like we approach it so much like that. Like we kind of gamble even in our content. We're like, all right, this is the viral one. Okay, and then if it's not, then what happens? It's like, it's so defeating. Where I feel like if we had just more consistency in our thought process of like, hey, I'm just going to do this one and we're going to see how it goes. We're going to try this. We're going to see how it goes. You had more like that VC approach where it's like, hey, I'm going to put out these 100 posts. And if even one connects with the person I want to connect with this month, and all I want to connect with is 12 people this year, perfect.
I've been posting for probably about 1,000 days. If I were to really try, and I got up to a post today pretty quick. So say even, but I don't do weekends as much. But say that's like I have 500 pieces of content out there. Like versus like, well, what are the 5 posts the last 2.5 years that I could post that could be like amazing posts? It's like 500 plus pieces like out there. Now we started doing 2 days at some points and everything else like that. And that was the mindset. Like if there's 500 out there day after day and the timing and all that stuff, like that's what matters versus if I had just posted like once a month or like I'm going to, just post on Thursday morning because that's the best time to post or whatever it is, right? I stopped early on caring about the algorithm. I would pay attention to it, but I don't care about it. I don't prioritize it over what can I get out there that is relevant to my market. And like that, I think we fix the order of operations for people thinking of it that way. Because I see it over and over. People are working through, they overthink, they overanalyze. And that's why, the content workshop, it's brilliant, right? We set a timer. It's like, hey, you're going to write for 12 minutes. You're going to write for 15 minutes. And we're going to review and edit it. And you're going to have something that's able to be right there, published, ready, like by the end of the call. And I think that's just like getting into that habit, that muscle being built is so key. And then obviously we pick a topic every week that they can write about. So over the course of 3 months, 6 months, that's 12, 20, 30 posts, right? That they can have beyond what's already in the course modules. Like we're really highlighting different ones each week. And it's like, that's because that's what it takes. Like, so that's how we teach it. Because you kind of just need that consistency weekend of just showing up.
Yeah, it's showing up again and again. And it's like what you said, Clark, you have these 500, we'll say, pieces of content. Those are an asset that you have for your business now and will continue to exist for as long as LinkedIn exists. If you send the perfect outreach message and you get a client because of it, that doesn't matter to your next client. They will never see it unless you send it to them again. Whereas you make a post that resonates with people this year, it's probably going to resonate with people next year. When somebody new connects with you, they see it on your profile. That post makes something click in their mind. And now all of a sudden, when they think, okay, when I need to hire my next employee, I'm going to think of this recruiter when it's time to do that. This content works for you over and over again. The
evergreen.
Yeah. Like outreach is really, it's like a hamster wheel. As soon as you stop running, it stops working. Content is a little different. You still want to be doing it consistently and posting consistently. But when you have made a post that works and makes people understand something about what you do, or maybe makes people understand something about why the way they're sourcing their candidates doesn't work, it continues to help you down the road, potentially for years. And so it gets more and more effective as time goes on, rather than needing the same amount of work every single time, the way outreach does.
Dude, that's such a great point in terms of like the water flowing. If everybody at home understands this. If you turn your business development, your traditional business development off, what happens to your business? Don't lie. Do it for a month. I dare you. Do it for 2 months. I dare you. I took 9 whole months off of LinkedIn completely when family stuff happened completely. And I came back and then everybody remembered me and exactly who and my thoughts and my feelings and all the stuff. And they remember who Kevin was. And sure, it took 2 weeks for me to get back to like my old numbers. Like, what does that even matter? But I had built enough trust. I had built enough equity with people in my content and help and all the ways that I had shown up that it was like nothing. And then there's this other thing that's really interesting is 7 months ago, and this is for a lot of new people that are scared to change content or to be specific or be niche down, right? We want to appeal to everybody, which is the worst content, right? The worst content is content that appeals to everybody because then you appeal to nobody. But I changed my content about 3 months ago, and Clark knows this, from like kind of content about me and my story to more practical, useful content about my audience only, adding in my personality and my writing ability. Yes, there is a drop off because I'm not speaking to this entire audience that I was before, right? But now I'm speaking very directly to a very specific audience. But do you guys know what happens? Let me tell you, because of the equity I built up over these last 3 years of writing every day, every now and again, I'll write a piece of content that's about me and my story. And so my practical, useful pieces of content, they get like 20 likes, 14 comments, something like that. Every now and again, maybe like 60, right? My story ones, they'll get 300 likes and 300 comments because people remember me. And sure, the content I'm posting on a daily basis is not for them and it's not speaking to them. So why would they why would they do anything? They wouldn't. But when they see my content that is relevant to them, they always come back. So this happens to so many people that we talk to in our cohort where you got to start writing differently because we write to people's emotions and human psychology. But the part that you don't understand is there's always the lurkers that see you on their feed and they remember you. And that's what you get when you do it this way versus the traditional methods where you're just a number, you're just another click in their email. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't pay attention pretty much to most, unless it's coming from a name I understand. No, I have so many emails, like I don't even pay attention. Yeah. But on your content, if you are you on the feed, they will always pay attention to your post going down. Yeah. That's such the difference.
Yeah, building the equity, I think, is such a key point. That's why the stuff we do with content combined with the outreach, making sure you're connecting with the right people every day, is so important. And kind of to segue to that, because I know we'll probably run a few minutes over, but Ross, in terms of the ideas, because we've come up with like 30 lessons in there that are broken down with examples in the Digital Recruiter content course. And they're able to just kind of go in and start writing their own draft right away. And it's really cool. And you bring up a topic every Thursday on our workshop, which is 90 minutes, which I think might have to go up because they're so action packed.
Stuff happened lately,
yeah, they're so action packed. And we've had people, I think as a couple posts got over 2 million views the last couple of weeks. Some people are getting contracts left and right from posts that are getting 30 likes. It doesn't have to go viral. But how did we come up with some of these ideas, right? That we know that really works, that works for recruiters. What talk to us about that process a little bit, kind of from your perspective.
Yeah. So coming up with posts that work to get clients for a business like a small recruiting agency, it's very different from coming up with posts that will consistently go viral like a big name LinkedIn creator does. And Kevin, kind of like how you were talking about a few months ago, you shifted from making a little bit more broadly appealed posts, maybe kind of like hustle culture style posts or something like that, to posts that were really focused on a specific group of people. Recruiters, that's another thing that kind of is very helpful along a recruiter's journey to actually getting something out of content, is understanding they don't need to make content for everybody on LinkedIn. They don't need to make content for everybody in the industry they serve. They need to make content for a really specific type of usually hiring manager or candidate who has the kinds of problems that they solve. And talking about that, they will almost always not get as many likes and pieces of engagement as a recruiter who is just posting kind of like aren't hiring managers annoying type of post where every other recruiter on LinkedIn is going to be like, yeah, they are, and comment on it. But it will resonate with the type of person who is actually going to fuel their business down the road, who is actually going to become a client, who is actually going to sign a contract, who is actually going to pay an invoice down the road, making content about that. So to answer your question, Clark, what do they actually write about? Well, it's writing about the work. It's writing about the problems that you solve. Why do the hiring managers that you work with need you? Why are they not finding the candidates on their own? Why are the recruiting agencies that they've worked with in the past bringing them the wrong kinds of candidates? What is going wrong in their business because they do not have the candidates that you could bring them? What is the difference between the amount of time it takes them to source candidates on their own versus the amount of time you can do it because this is what you're focused on? So focusing on the problems, that's like the big umbrella number one. And we go into, just like I just listed off, we go into different specific versions of that problem. Like the problems with the business, the problems with finding the candidates, and the problems with your competition. That's one that we have a lot of fun writing. Problems with other recruiters that are not doing as good of a job as you. And then the actual process, a lot of people don't want to give away their secret sauce, but in a service business like recruiting, give it all away. It doesn't matter because people are not paying you for secret knowledge that you possess that no one else possesses. People are paying you to do a thing that they either do not want to do themselves, don't know how to do themselves, or don't have time to do themselves. So telling people exactly what you do, exactly how you source candidates, that's a really powerful thing that you can do in your content. It sets you apart from other people. It actually shows that you know what they're doing. It shows that you know why people need you. And then success stories. That's another kind of like big umbrella, is sharing candidates that you've placed with companies that turned out really well, sharing companies whose teams you helped build and what they are doing now that they have these people on their team. Problems, process, success stories. Those are the three big things. And we drill very deep into each of those buckets. But those are the buckets.
I'll probably add also breaking the myths about recruiting, like what they think they know about agency recruiting versus what's the actual reality. I would just add that as well, because I've heard it, I've seen us talk about it, what their prospects and managers like think the value of recruiting is versus what it actually could be, which is kind of summed up in the 3 points that you brought up. But it's like all of that is kind of breaking like their beliefs a little bit or reframing.
Well, just to that point, right? I think the biggest belief is what you're saying, in that we're solving their problems, often their internal problems, not their external. But also, whenever most recruiters come in, actually, we have a lot of recruiters that do pretty good, but most are talking about them and all the things that they do well, and missing the context of why that matters to the person on the other side. To Ross's point, that's why we talk about their problems, because we want to write things where they're going to recognize that we understand the complexity of the environment they're in. And if you write about the problems, then those people are going to probably, they're going to believe that you understand, like, oh gosh, if you're saying that, if you're writing about your hiring manager, and again, I like to talk about internal problems, right? That can't make it home on time because this role is open, because they have to wear 10 extra hats and now they have to stay to do this extra work. Well, if they see that post, it's going to be like, he gets me. And every other recruiter just wanted to tell me how many placements they made and how fast they're going to do it and how great they are. But this person's talking about me, and it, right? So just in the way that we teach it, in that aha moment, I feel like that's the biggest one and especially that Ross does so good with, is getting people to recognize that it's mostly not about you, unless it's like your process and how it helps them.
It's showing them their value to their clients or to the market. I feel like that's what we talk about every Thursday, Ross, is like, yes, and you doing this is super valuable to your hiring manager, to your candidate. I think a lot of recruiters just take what they do for granted, probably because it's been so demeaned in the market. Oh, anyone could do what you do and all that. I think a lot of recruiters fall into recruiting. And so it's kind of like, am I actually any good at this? Do I know? Like, is this really valuable? Did I get lucky? Right? There's like some of these mental blocks that recruiters have, and even really successful ones. It's like, they're just like, well, I don't even know where to start. Like, how do I write about all of this stuff that happened? And so I think there's kind of like working through that systematically of like, well, here's how to leverage what you've done well and everything that you know about. And then for the ones, there's also this like confidence kind of builds. It's like, whoa, I have done a lot of different things. I really have helped a lot of different people, and I've seen different things, and kind of even getting that on paper has built their confidence like elsewhere as well. And I think just like working through those topics in those posts, I think that's what we start to see people become confident. And then they start to realize like, wow, I can put myself out there in a post and people are really responding to it. And I think you can't understate how crucial that is in terms of someone's learning curve, because I've seen that be the difference between hitting that 6 figures or hitting the 7 figures as an agency, or someone that started at 6% with one client on their rates and got up to 22%. That texted me last week that he just signed a client for 27% and has already got candidates in the mix. So it's like, there's a lot that can come from just attacking just the content and doing it in a intentional, strategic way, and just getting it out there, right? No hashtags, nothing crazy, just like what you got to say about what you're seeing in the market. And it's crazy valuable.
Yeah. You're showing people why you're valuable. And also at the same time, like you said, Clark, a lot of times we talk with digital recruiter clients, they don't really understand the value that they're actually bringing to the table. They're doing these big things that companies really need their help with, and are enabling companies to go forward and create new products, serve new clients, get more patients in the door, whatever they're doing. They can't do it without a recruiter finding the right person at some point. And it's easy to kind of take that for granted if you've been recruiting for a while, or maybe if you're brand new to it, you don't really understand, or maybe you just put on the back burner how important the work that you do is. And being able to articulate that to people, it's both helpful for you, it's a confidence boost for you, and it makes that light bulb moment happen with your market. And be like, oh, this is why they're worth a 22% fee. This is why I need to work with a recruiter. So
we specialize in realization management as well. You know, they need a little bit of that. We do reputation management, realization management. But just for the record, if any of y'all have ever written a resume or helped somebody else write a resume, I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people. I can barely remember a person where they were like, really? I did that? Dang. And I'm like, yeah, you did this, that, and that. Really? You don't realize? I feel like everybody downplays all their achievements and all the recognition. And seriously, half our job is like, yo, you're the shit. And here's all the reasons why. Right? Like permission. We talk about that, dude. So much of what we do is like permission. Dude, you've done so many things. Why would you think you're not valued at 27%?
Yeah. Let's just figure out and then we figure out the formatting and what to say and get in there and like, let's get it on paper and or digital paper, as I always say, and let's work through it. Let's edit it and let's try it and let's see what happens. Right? And that's sometimes get 4 likes, sometimes 40, sometimes 400, and sometimes 4,000. I don't know. And then from there, let's study that, and then let's iterate. Let's post again. Like we just keep going. But as you get it, as you build that and you get your time in the market, well, the market will reward you.
But and sorry, to that point, we in that sense, we're always creating action points, right? So I think where a lot of people stop maybe is right. They'll post and they don't think that the people commenting and liking are leads for them, right? And they'll post and it'll be that 400 like post, and that's the one like you should take your time with. Like you should really go through, look at all the people, engage with them, right? So I think also a lot of it is the recognition of all the things that you do all day. Like a lot of it, you should just like stop, catalog it. Like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Who does it affect? How does it affect them? What is your impact on that? Again, scope and scale. Like, what's the complexity of that environment? So you can catalog seriously, like all the things that you do and all the impact you have on all these different segments of business that you control and are a part of. Because it's such an enlightening process for you to realize, holy hell, all the things you do and all the problems you solve. To Ross's point, you have content. It's just you need a little, you just need that a little bit of that coaching. That's it.
Absolutely. As we wind it down, Ross, what's someone that's looking to get started on their content journey as a recruiter, or maybe like they've gone started, but they don't even know what they're looking at or how to know if it's good or not, or if it's working. What do you say to those people?
The main thing I think is to just try it. Don't not post because you're not sure that it's good. This is something that you get better at over time. And the worst thing you can do if you believe in any way, shape, or form that LinkedIn content could be helpful for your business, just start. It's not going to, even if you do it completely wrong, it will not hurt anything. It's not going to break anything. You're going to learn something and you'll get better at it. So that's the number one thing. Just like do it. Follow people who are already good at it. Clark, Kevin, both good people to follow. Study the way they format their posts. This is something that we spend a lot of time with in the program, is like, what do you put on your first line? How many lines should be in a paragraph? All of that sort of stuff. Just kind of study people who are already doing it well. And pay attention to the people who like and engage, even if they're not a hiring manager. Ask them why they like. Anybody who likes your post, message them and ask what resonated about your post, and start to get an idea. Sometimes people latch onto ideas that you did not think were important at all because they're so mundane for you and you've done them 1,000 times. And you realize that people who are following you are like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. And now all of a sudden you've got another thing to talk about tomorrow. So don't just like put your post out there into the world and forget about it. Pay attention to what people are doing, what people are reacting to, and ask them, start a conversation, send people a message. Even if somebody who you don't think has anything to do with your target market, they're still potentially going to give you intel about how you're doing. And just do it and keep paying attention and keep posting again. I don't think that you just because you post about a topic one time that you can never post about it again.
Exactly.
This is a continuous process.
I feel like we've been grown up, we've been raised with one of the worst pieces of advice on earth, and unfortunately we encapsulate it and then bring it to us as adults. And this is a great representation. My dad always used to, growing up, he always used to say, son, stop practicing to perfection. We are not perfect. Start practicing the permanence. When you are writing, please, please, please stop practicing to perfection. There is no such thing as perfect. You will never have the perfect words or the perfect thoughts, because not everybody's going to like what you have to say. And not everybody should like what you have to say. You should be looking to be you and speak the message to your audience, and then find your audience. When people don't like it or say something mean, well, that's good. That's not your audience. They don't matter. They literally don't matter.
But to the other side of that is what Ross just said, right? So I think that's what you just said, Kevin, is what people do focus on, right? So you have to get over that hurdle of like, they don't like it, but also be open to be surprised what people actually do like about your
Facts.
right? So you have both of those. So what Bradley said, Ross's encouragement of just see how the market reacts. That's the ultimate theme and the principle here is that.
Sorry, one last good point. That's a good point. Because going back to investments, for some reason, when I lose $1, I have the worst day ever. I like, forget this, I'm done. But for some reason, when I'm up $10,000, it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's nothing. It's just. So
right,
it's like,
we underplay our wins and that feedback and all that, and it's like that's
right.
Okay,
and the moment,
it's
it's a little loss, we like vilify ourselves, like we're the worst of the worst. It shouldn't be the extreme.
Yeah, celebrating those little wins is a big theme in the program.
Yes.
Content, sales, everything, and that's a big piece, right? It's like because you do it once, you can probably do it again, right? So
You will.
Ross, dude, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll have you back soon.
Please. That's a nice dynamic. I like it.
Yeah.
You always bring a whole new different thought process to this.
It's one of the cool things about the program is we all do the same thing, but we come at it in a little bit different ways, and that's why people learn.
Well, there's no one coaching voice. Is exactly it. It's like they get different perspectives and like that's what this is, because it's about teaching how to think critically with content, with sales, with everything else. And so you get a couple different people that have been in it in the trenches and done it, and you get some of those perspectives. You're right. Like we can get feedback on the same post, and us three have said 3 different things to people before on the same call and give them a lot to take away. So, yeah.
It's almost like that's how you should like build teams or something. I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know.
How you should approach your content. Like you never know what's going to give somebody an aha moment. So try different stuff, say different things.
Yeah. So,
you never know when your experience and your skill set might give you a different idea about something. Ross has a different experience, wisdom, Clark. So we're all gonna come at it at a different angle, but I think that's what makes it so dynamic.
Exactly. Sure. I love it. Well, good stuff, guys. Again,
Thanks,
if you're
Tim, Bradley,
made it this far, Tim, good to hear from you, man.
Appreciate you.
It's always cool to see the Digital Recruiter clients come alumni in the chat, and Ben, always good to see you, brother. And I think him and I are recording a podcast this month, so that's pretty fun.
Nice.
We'll be back Friday. I think we got Keely on Friday, Kevin.
Ooh.
All right. Double up.
I learn stuff from Keely every week, man.
Yeah, he's a gem. So we're gonna keep the DR theme going. If you want to chat further about training, feel free to book a call on my profile. We got courses. We got the content course that Ross and Kevin were a huge part of. You can check that out as well. Until Friday.
Yeah. Happy Monday, y'all. Have a killer start to y'all.
Get after it this week. Ross, appreciate you, brother. We'll see you soon.
You got questions? DM us.
Yeah.